Now we get to the What the Hill segment, and Ray Bone Crusher, that's not his actual name, but that's what we're going to call him. Uh, he sent me an email earlier this week and he asked me to read it, so I'm going to read it. Michael, a rumor is going around about me that I have joined up with Jeremy Hales. It's completely untrue. Is there any way you can address this on your channel when you get a chance? There you go. All right, before that, hold on. What is What the Hales? What the Hales refers to Jeremy Hales, who runs a YouTube channel called What the Hales. He sues everyone. He's threatening to sue his girlfriend's sister. He sued his neighbors, Michelle Preston and John Cook, because there were some alleged defamatory defamatory signs, that is. He claimed that they are tortiously interfering with his business, a nonsensical accusation. He claimed that they were extorting him, a nonsensical accusation. He filed a protective order against both of them in Ohio, even though they all live in Florida. He has now filed a second lawsuit against them, others. This guy, Ray, their lawyer, Bruce Matskin, he is sue happy, according to his girlfriend. He uses it all for YouTube content. He has a bunch of YouTube compadres, like my former friend, Megan Fox, who we'll talk about later, who are his propagandists. He or people he is associated with are even employing astroturfers, which we will talk about. Now, there is a rumor going around that Ray and others may be like going against the, and they are a part of what Hales calls the anti-Hales ecosystem, so that they may be joining up with Hales. And the reason that rumor is going around is because he put out a short video. We won't play it because he loves to claim that everything is copyrighted, but you and I watched the video, am I right? You watched it. I did. I know I'm right about me watching it. We both watched it. It's like a minute and a half long, so it's not hard to watch. He claims that there's
it's hard to watch because Jeremy's on it, but
right, yeah. He claims that there's one of the 10 people, he won't say who it is, that is going to be a turncoat. And this is a civil lawsuit, am I right, that he's talking about? Did he use the term plea deal?
Yeah, a plea bargain or a plea deal.
Plea deal. Is there such a thing as a plea deal in a civil lawsuit?
Not at all. No such thing.
No. What is it called if you try to reach an agreement?
The settlement agreement.
Right now,
terms from civil law and criminal law. It shows that he's a novice, if not a total imbecile when it comes to the law.
All right, and but he is a novice. Now, you practice law. You practiced law for a while. Did you do some civil cases?
Any civil case.
Yeah, so if you were working on a settlement agreement, you would probably use that term to your client more than once. You would say, the other party, we are going to try to settle, we're trying to work out a settlement agreement. You would use it repeatedly. And so after a while, your client would probably learn it's a settlement agreement. It's not a plea deal.
Unless your client is an imbecile. Yes.
Right, unless your client is an imbecile. That's number one. So number two, do you think if there is a settlement agreement that's being negotiated, do you think it's a good idea for J, and I call him JN and I got a note that I didn't know why I called him that. That's for QAnon, because he constantly claims that arrests are coming, arrests never come. So do you think it's a good idea, if there really is a settlement agreement in the works, for him to go out on his YouTube channel in front of tens of thousands of people and say there's a settlement agreement in the works?
Michael, this is a classic psychological ploy related to a logic situation called the prisoner's dilemma. And we've talked about things like this before, but the prisoner's dilemma is a situation where the cops have two suspects, two co-conspirators in two separate rooms in the police station. And these guys will both walk out of the precinct because they have nothing. Okay, if neither one of them talks, but if one of them talks, then the situation is the other one's going to go away for 10 years, whatever. And so and the one who talks may very well have to do prison time too. And so the situation becomes, if you can trick one of those people into talking, then they come out worse. And so I think that's what Jeremy's trying to do here. He's trying to trick somebody, one of the 10, to talking because they believe that if they run and they can get a deal, then they'll be okay. But in the when they make the deal, they're actually probably going to be in a worse position than they would have been in if they hadn't done anything, because you have a meritless lawsuit here. But by making an agreement with somebody for anything that has a lawsuit with no merit, it kind of gives, validates what they're trying to say. And so you have a situation where it doesn't make any sense what he's saying to begin with, because the first step in a civil litigation usually is to file a motion to dismiss and to say, these allegations are crap. There's no reason why I should.
And let me interrupt you. First of all, I believe that 5 of the 10 people have been served. So not everyone has been served. I don't know that anyone has even responded. Of the 10 people, there's only one who may be someone who would flip, and this is guy Dave Helms, who I don't know very well. I sent him an email. He didn't respond. He's a lawyer. He doesn't know anything about the rest of the folks. And Mr. Helms, if you're upset, you should have told me that you weren't one of the 10. But anyway, he would be the only one. I don't think he'd know anything about the rest of them. And this is what I wanted to ask you. Is it common, or even does it ever happen that there is any kind of negotiations for a settlement agreement before the defendants have filed and have played out at least one motion to dismiss?
That if they were trying to do that, the smart strategic thing to do would have been to do this prior to filing the lawsuit. So you send out a demand letter to these people before the lawsuit that says, we're going to sue you. In lieu of a lawsuit, we'd love for you to have come in and sign an agreement with us, a release agreement and everything else, and make admissions, and we agree upon this, and we won't sue you. But after that happens and they don't respond, usually the response that you get, if a lawyer's handling it, is they send what's called a frivolous litigation letter or a defense letter saying, look, your claims have no basis in fact in law. These are the reasons why under the law. These are the facts that we understand them to be. If you sue us, then we will turn around and we will not only ask to dismiss this case, we will bring a motion for sanctions against. And usually that's what happens. There's a motion to dismiss and a request for sanctions. And the fact of the matter is, we haven't even gotten past that point. And why would anybody, rather than file a motion to dismiss, and ask the case to be thrown out, or even answer the case, why would they right away go to make an agreement with Jeremy Hales? You can file your motion to dismiss today, or file your answer today, and then tomorrow or next week decide, okay, I'm going to make my agreement if I want to make my agreement. You're not going to run to an agreement as the first step at this point. It doesn't make any logical sense that you would do that. The first thing you would do is you would defend the onslaught that he's bringing against you, the served papers. And like you said, 5 of them out of 10 or so got served. So only 5 of them have an obligation to respond. So they respond to the court. Then it's going to be months before the court does anything anyway. So in that time period, you can say, okay, let's resolve the issue. There's no, it's like there's no goal line fever. There's no yellow fever here to get this thing done like in the next week that you have to make an agreement with Jeremy Hales. You don't have to make an agreement with Jeremy Hales. Even if you got served with papers already, you won't have to make an agreement with him if you wanted to get rid of the case for 6 months if you didn't want to, without any repercussions or any ramifications. So it doesn't make any sense what he's talking about. He's trying to create his own demand. He's trying to create his own illusion. He's trying to create his own prisoner's dilemma here to try to ruffle up something, and that's to try to legitimize what he's saying. He's got no legitimate claims, and so he's going to try to get somebody who's a defendant to say, yes, everything he says is legitimate, everything he says is true, blah, 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 blah. But then all the person's going to get in return is they don't have to deal with Jeremy Hales anymore, which in and of itself is a very, very valuable thing. If you had a piece of paper that says Jeremy Hales, I don't have to deal with him, that's a very valuable piece of paper. That could be worth millions.
Right. He is sue happy. So a few weeks ago, he claimed that you and I were under local and possibly federal investigation. That was an entirely baseless and made up claim. I believe this is as well. His fans should take note. If no one comes forward and makes a deal with him, he is constantly lying to you. And I think you're right. I think what he's doing is, one, clickbait. I think the live where he attacked his girlfriend and claimed that he was going to sue his girlfriend's sister that we played a little of was a disaster. His numbers were down. and he is trying to create more controversy and more attention to the case. One, I think two, you're right, he's doing something akin to prisoner's dilemma. I think three, he's trying to cause chaos. But if he's got someone on the hook, it's completely weird. Number one, you would know that this is not a plea deal, it's a settlement agreement. Number two, your lawyer would say, don't say anything until this thing is finalized, because you could completely screw it up if you don't. And number three, it almost never would happen this early in the case. I think he's making it up out of his rear end. By the way, I called him and left a voicemail yesterday. He didn't call me back. I don't know why. I'm a very charming guy. Now, we're going to talk about my former friend, Megan Fox. I've known Megan since 2014. We worked hand in hand for about a year, busting all kinds of bad judges all throughout the country, really all throughout the world. We interviewed Liz Perkins from England and Grant Wyeth from Australia and this guy Brian Ludmer from Canada. So all over the world. That's me and Megan right there. I'm sorry, that's Megan. That's me. So I've recently found out that it appears she's co-opted not one, but two, what I call alleged astroturfers. This idiot, his name is Jason Hipsher. He goes by J Hip. He started a YouTube channel maybe a month and a half ago, and he has done more than half of his videos about me, a couple about me and you, maybe one about you. And look here, I asked Jay on March 8th, Jay, since Megan is too cowardly, do you want to take a stab? Do you think reading tweets is scintillating where you promise promotion? And as you can see, Megan, who has 50,000 YouTube followers, is promoting Jay, who at the time had like 100. Now, I wrote that on March 8th. Took him a long time to formulate his response because he waited until March 14th. And he said, I woke up early and I finally have time to respond. I really enjoy reading your posts on X. Also, I was not promised any promotion to read them. I believe what happened is real. Megan dislikes you so much that she loved my content. I hope you enjoy it as well. She hates me, so that's why she loves his content. You buying that?
Not at all.
Right. So then I get this tip. Oh, by the way, Megan Fox is a moderator for J Hip. She's using him to attack you for covering this. So once again, and now look, here's her promotion on YouTube, a second promotion on YouTube, a third promotion on YouTube. She is a moderator on his live streams, apparently. Now I asked J Hip if she's a moderator on his live streams. Here's how he responded. Good morning, Vomit. Rosalind Duke is going to be doing a live stream on YouTube that I will be appearing on. I will address this mountain of investigative journalism that you must have painstakingly put yourself through. I would give you a simple answer, but Rosalind deserves the extra view from her Rosalind Tells People the Fuck Off show. It's bound to be a blast to discuss your stupidity. Please pop in, will not pop in. We don't need any unwanted pregnancies. The pregnancy wasn't unwanted. You know nothing, Jay. I got my live-in girlfriend pregnant. That's what he's referring to. I mean, like, watch the whole stream where you will get your answer. He's doing promotion. He never answered it. And then look, Megan is promoting Rosalind Duke. That's this lady. Now all Rosalind and Jay were part of this long Twitter stream that went on and on and on for a variety of reasons. And now she's promoting them. And both of these two did nothing on Hales until about a month ago. And now suddenly they're doing some Hales content being promoted by Megan. She's the moderator for at least one of them, apparently. And he does nothing but insult me. And after this article was written, he invited me onto his show today. It was at a time where I was going to have to take care, not have to, but where I'm taking care of my toddler son, that quote unquote unwanted pregnancy that wasn't unwanted. We talked about it. I got my live-in girlfriend pregnant. He knows nothing. He refused to move it. And I told him, well, I come on yours. You have to come on my show. And he said, I don't do pre-recorded shows. He's so big time after 10 episodes or 12 episodes that he only does live streams. He's very particular about the videos he shows. And by the way, after I asked him to respond, this is Roslyn. It's Mrs. Duke or Her Highness Lady Rizzler to him. Please correct me. I don't know what that means. And also, I did a couple of surveys, and here's one. Are they astroturfers? My audience, by a very small margin, says they are not, but you can still vote. Now, I then wanted to set the record straight about me and my former friend Megan Fox. So here is what happened. I've known Bruce for a while because he reached out to me about another story called the Mac Daddy affair. I did a couple of stories on that. As we talked about that, he started explaining to me what was happening with What the Hales. I initially declined to get involved in deference to Megan, and particularly in 2022 when my ex-girlfriend, the mother of my child, reached out to her and Megan treated me with kindness. However, in December of 2024, I was going to go on Milltown's Best Day. I don't remember Dave's last name, to talk about the Mac Daddy affair. Megan got wind of it, and let me read to you what happened. Mike, you do not want to go on Milltown. Today, Bruce and Lisa from another hate channel tried to Milltown, got added to the federal lawsuit Jeremy Hales brought for defamation. There will be more added, and probably Milltown. I've never steered you wrong. Trust me on these. These people are not your friends. They want to use you because you know me. That's it. So here, initially, she's acting like she's my friend, like I shouldn't go on because it would be bad for me, right? And I told her to go F off. Don't tell me what YouTube channel I can go on. I know what I'm doing, right? So now remember, first she's saying it's a bad idea for me.
Yeah.
After that didn't work.
The second paragraph was they're trying to use you to get to me. First it was
Right.
about you, and then it was about her. You know,
Right.
it's crazy.
And by the way, this filing she's referring to was dismissed, and then it was turned into the federal lawsuit we are talking about. We interviewed Ray, and we all agreed that it was a frivolous lawsuit, and she thought she would manipulate me by sending me some federal filing. She was completely wrong. Then it's about her. Then it's this.
Mike, before you get to that, it's like one of the cardinal rules of being a journalist. You know, you could talk to any journalist that you want. Journalists talk all the time, and tell them what you think about a story, about a case, about a this, about a that. Share information, but you never tell a journalist not to cover something. That's like the third rail of journalism. That's censorship. You know, you can give somebody the caveat all they want. She's telling you under no uncertain terms, don't cover this, Michael. Don't cover this, Michael. And
by the way, this is a story she didn't want to cover, but it paints Bruce Matskin, who was representing the neighbors of Jeremy Hales, in a sympathetic light, and that's why she didn't want me to cover it. So then, as I said, I'm going on. I know what I'm doing. She goes, again, you are showing me that you have no regard for me at all. These people are harassers, doxers, and defamers. They have been doing these things to me for months, and if you give them any legitimacy, then that tells me we are not friends. And that, Megan, is why I covered What the Hales. And by the way, Dave from Milltown put a comment on and said, I had no idea you knew her. I wasn't going to sandbag you with anything about What the Hales. I watched the interviews you did with Bruce. I thought you did a good interview. I wanted to talk about this case. And I want to show you one comment that I left, because I do think, and this is Dave's comment, this describes Megan. Suspicion always haunts the guilty mind. William Shakespeare. The reason that she was paranoid about all this stuff is because she does have a guilty mind. And that's why this was happening. Megan, you are a manipulative bitch. That text message, she goes from, trust me, I know what I'm doing, to you're going to hurt me too. We're not friends. Trust me, we've been friends for a long time. And 10 minutes later, we're not friends. What a manipulative bitch.
The point is, Mike, if someone was under attack, if one of my friends was under attack and you had a story that you were covering that was tangentially related or something like that, and you're in the media like you have a following, and you have a respected following when you say something, wouldn't it be better to come in and defend your friend? So wouldn't Megan's tack there to be, Mike, these guys have hurt me. Here's the reasons why. I'd like you to, if you can, opine on it and let people know what's going on. If she had done that, I think this whole thing goes very, very differently. But the problem is she can't do that because she doesn't have the facts to back it up. If someone were attacking, you present them the facts. This person is attacking me wrongfully. Here's why. Here's my documentation. Here's what they said. Here's when they said it. And can you help me out by letting people know that this is unfair? And most journalists would say, sure, you're my friend. I will totally do this.
Right. She never gave me any details. And by the way, when I went on with David Miltown's Best, he then took a couple of minutes to defend himself from the defamatory statements of him being a harasser, a doxer, and all the other garbage that she called him. She doesn't present any evidence of this. She's bought into Hales because he has 750,000 followers, and she went from about 10,000 to 50,000 basically overnight as a result of being attached to him. And that's why she's doing all of this, and I know it, and she knows I know it, and that's why we're not friends. And it has nothing to do with any of this other stuff. And one other thing, the reason that I released all of that is because she's putting out the narrative that I betrayed her. I didn't betray her. She's a manipulative bitch. All right, one other thing. So we got a video. This is from Two Lees in a Pot. I want to give her credit. You better not try any nonsense about copyright, Lisa, because I'm only going to play a little bit of this, but she got some great video from a couple of weeks ago, and then we got some other stuff to talk about. So this is the truck that John Cook and Michelle Preston own. So I guess this is from their own properties video. So watch what happens.
Arriving home. If you look behind them, there's nobody there. Nobody here. Okay? Nobody in the road. Watch how fast this happens. Here it comes, pulling out. Coming down the road. They don't know he's there yet. So you gotta open the gate. John realizes it and tells her.
Here's what you can expect to pay for your tax prep.
Wait, this is backwards. My last tax guy only ever told me the price after.
He just says he's filming. So she runs over and closes the gate. I mean, can you imagine having to pull into your house and making sure you close the gate so someone's not
in that truck? You want to guess who that guy that drove by with a video camera?
Jeremy Hales.
That's right. Remember, this guy.
And this is a promotion for Two Leaves in a Pot. If you want to see the full video and the full commentary, go to them. They have a great YouTube channel. Check them out. And they're the truth about Jeremy Hales, which is a great thing.
Remember, this guy has a protective order against them in Ohio, where he's saying he's afraid of them, and he just drove by. He just drove by and tried to film them, and it's not the only time. Yeah. So let's watch. We've watched this video before. Let's watch it again. Yeah.
Keep going, John. You're all right.
10 feet.
You're all right.
10 feet.
You're all right,
John is within 4 feet of our truck right now. And he's communicating.
This guy constantly drives by their house, even though he supposedly has a protective order against him. So if you witnessed, if you were a judge and that evidence was presented to you and Jeremy Hales has a protective order against Michelle Preston and John Cook, what would you do?
Oh, I would just throw the whole thing out. I might even admonish or even sanction Jeremy Hales for his behavior, his activity, and his, because that's sanctionable conduct. When you go to try to use the court, you try to get a shield, which is a protective order, and use it as a sword. That is something that's terrible. And I think that we may have to go and take a look at these judges up there in Ohio as to what they're doing. I think we have it right here. And I think we have to take a deeper dive about these judges in Ohio. That'll happen after this week's shenanigans in Pensacola, which we're looking forward to. We'll see what happens.
All right. The magistrate who's overseeing the case is Candy O'Connor. I call her the ringer. You just saw him twice, and it's not just those 2 times. He regularly drives by their house with a video camera. She just found either John Cook or Michelle Preston in contempt right there. The ringer, Candy O'Connor. Now, you talked about a legal term called legal fiction. Explain what that is again.
Legal fiction, in the normal sense, is how you bridge the gap between points of law. So, you'll have the one of the greatest examples is the idea of a quasi contract, a situation where there's no actual contract made between the parties, but in certain circumstances, one party will be held liable to the other as if there were a contract, a quasi-contractual relationship, and that's under the law in every jurisdiction. But it's a legal fiction. It's a legal fiction that the two parties agreed because they assume agreement as a matter of law, either between the course of dealing because of the exigent circumstances. There's a quasi-contract, and that's a legal fiction that there was an actual. I agree that you're going to do this for me. So this happens. It happens in law, and it's part of the law. However, lawyers take legal fiction to mean things that it doesn't, and then bring it outside the courtroom onto the streets and confuse reality. So you can get a judge, and you get a lawyer that can convince a judge to say that the sky is orange, and they write it in a ruling, and then that lawyer runs out to the street and says, oh, well, I have a ruling that says the sky is orange, and therefore the sky must be orange because it's legally true in this ruling. And so that's what we're having. We have this crazy legal fiction.
So if you just witnessed multiple times Jeremy Hales trying to create a confrontation, and yet the judge rules contempt against John Cook and or Michelle Preston, is that an example of legal fiction?
Well, I think it's facts that him putting forward facts that are untrue or disingenuous, number one. So it could very well be dishonesty or fraud on his part. But the ruling itself is either predicated upon fraud or is itself a legal fiction. It really is a legal fiction. It is in the face of reality.
The man we are looking at, Sean Martin, is primarily responsible for this legal fiction. He did take on the case pro bono, but he tanked the case. None of the videos, none of the police reports we've talked about, he's entered into evidence. He is allowed, and he is the lawyer now just for John Cook in this protective order in Ohio. He's allowed Jay Anon to walk all over his clients because he's a scumbag lawyer. That's what he is. And by the way, you want to see what kind of a scummy guy he is? I asked him about this. And let's take a look at the response. Mr. Volpe, I have been discharged as to Miss Preston only. The court has made no ruling on the matter with Mr. Cook, as far as I know. As to the rest of your question, I do not discuss cases. You're a scumbag. You allowed 2 poor people to be run over when the evidence was clear that Jay Anon is the aggressor. I hope all your potential clients consider that if they're looking to hire you.
Well, that's part of the issue. The bigger issue is these judges, though. I think we have to go further deep into these judges, let everybody know the ruling that these judges made in the face of the evidence. Because if they're making rulings like this, then they are, complicit in this process. So either one of 2 things happen. The judges were the victims of fraud and dishonesty by Jeremy Hales and his attorneys, or the judges just didn't care. That's a reckless disregard for their obligations as judges. And I think the public has a right to know which one that is and decide for themselves. So I think we're going to have to do a little more on that stuff.
Right. I don't believe any of the evidence we showed has been presented. This guy let them run all over him. We have another new subsegment. This is the 3rd edition we call it, is it frivolous? This is going to be a little bit different because the order already came out. There was another defamation lawsuit filed by one YouTube, it's not a YouTube personality, a social media personality against other social media personalities. Lauren the Mortician, it's not quite as hot as the Hales case, but interesting nonetheless. So Lauren the Mortician and her lawyer filed this lawsuit against several other social media personalities. And so let's go through it. And this is an important part. I'm going to read it. On or around October 23rd, 2023, Carter, who is one of the defendants, published a video on TikTok where she accused Propson, who I think is Lauren the Mortician, of being transphobic and a TERF. Specifically, Carter said, quote, Lauren the Mortician is a TERF. I have receipts, I have deets, and you should go ahead and take a seat. TERF is an acronym meaning trans exclusionary radical feminist that at least one dictionary defines as, quote, an advocate for radical feminism who does not believe that transgender people's gender identities are legitimate and who is hostile to the inclusion of trans women in the feminist movement. Receipts or deets are slang words used to mean proof or evidence. Carter further explained that the receipts and or deets referenced were evidence of Propson liking incredibly transphobic and hateful rhetoric and content. And she then listed out some like Facebook posts that this lady liked. Now, I have no formal law background, but can I break this down?
Go for it.
Claiming that someone is a TERF, like claiming that someone is a racist or a Nazi or a psychopath, is almost always considered opinion and protected speech. What is not protected is if you say they are a TERF because I heard them spit in the face of such and such transgender person. Now you are stating fact. You better have really seen them spit in the face of that transgender person, because that is a fact that can be challenged. But simply the idea of being a TERF is not something you can sue for. In this case, this part right here is protected opinion. This part right here was agreed upon by everyone. She did like certain Facebook posts by people who are alleged to be anti-trans. This lady sued by saying, well, that doesn't make me a TERF. Well, that is up to the audience to decide. This is a frivolous law. At least this part is very, very frivolous. Did I get all of that right?
I think you did, Mike. I think you did. I think that it's an opinion. Mm-hmm. And the fact is that they're bringing these lawsuits, and mm-hmm. You know, we've talked about it before. It's like Bruce Matkin says it. He says it's a lawsuit's like the greatest bit of content creation, and mm-hmm. there's no real hammer that these judges are bringing against not so much the content creators, because you know if the court's going to allow them to create free content, then you know with low repercussion, a little cost, then I would do it too. But the fact mm-hmm. of the matter is, these judges have to come down on the lawyers, I think, more than anything. Sanction the parties, sanction mm-hmm. the lawyers, and mm-hmm. and make an example out of the people that are bringing these outlandish lawsuits for no good reason. You know, that's the problem we have in America today. You know, we're a litigious society to a certain extent, but there's a lot of litigiousness that doesn't even have to be there. That should be thrown out right away, or should be weeded out by the officers of the court, the lawyers in their offices, before it even gets to be filed. You know, so that becomes the problem.
All right, the next part. Now, Braun is the lawyer for Lauren the Mortician. Braun then posted at least 2 videos on different social media platforms in which she accused Braun of filing, quote, false copyright claims and bad faith copyright infringement strikes. Carter also began a GoFundMe related to the DCMA. Saying that you brought a false or bad faith copyright claim also would be considered opinion. However, there's another part. I think I can find it. All right, here. This, however, is more serious. On December 11, 2023, They created yet another post on TikTok in which she said the Illinois Attorney Registration and Disciplinary Commission told her they received, quote, multiple credible complaints about Jeanette Braun, and they have assigned multiple attorneys to investigate this matter. This right here, I can tell you, should be defamatory, and I'll tell you why. The ARDC would never tell you that. The ARDC is a bar disciplinary outfit out of Illinois. They all have different names in different states. They would never say that. Any bar discipline is listed on their website. The only thing they would say is if you go to our website and go to this part, you can see all of the current and past disciplinary actions. That's the only thing that they would say. They would never tell you that we are currently investigating someone for multiple complaints and they have assigned. They would never say that. That seems to be defamatory. Am I wrong?
Not at all. I think you got your spot on there. I think you're spot on with your analysis.
Okay, and so we won't go through it. The reason they dismissed it for anti-SLAPP is because this was a federal lawsuit, and the judge decided that there's a federal statute that's exactly like anti-SLAPP, so there's no reason to bring anti-SLAPP. So they dismissed it under anti-SLAPP. So instead, they ruled it under this rule right here, which is the same as anti-SLAPP.
No, it's not.
Right, and what?
12b-6 is failure to state a cause of action upon which relief could be granted. That means that the judge says, assuming that everything you say is true, I still can't give you relief. The law does not entitle you to relief. That's what 12b-6.
Right, and the judge found exactly what I found. Carter allegedly stated that Propson is a, quote, TERF, or trans exclusionary radical feminist, and that she is transphobic. Propson alleged that, quote, being called transphobic is akin to being called a bigot or a racist. The problem for Propson is that the court universally recognized that allegations of racism or bigotry are not actionable in a defamation claim because they express subjective opinions that cannot be proven true or false. And that was dismissed. Now, the allegation about going to the ARDC, I'm not going to look through that. I think was also dismissed, though. I disagree with that. And the judge found that when you say someone brings a bad faith copyright claim, that's not actionable because that's subjective. And bringing it back to Jay Anon's lawsuit, he too is suing a bunch of YouTubers. I hope that this is not something that we see a lot of. You should decide this where it needs to be on your own channels. You all challenge each other. But he at one point claimed that someone called him a psychopath, and that, like racist and TERF, is considered an opinion, and his lawyer, Randall Shockett, should know better. Anything you wanted to add?
Listen, I said it before. I think this is a part of a national trend, and that needs to kind of be stemmed. I think that some of these frivolous lawsuits just need to be punished for being frivolous. We have a Rule 11 that the Congress has put in, a Rule 11, the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. And I think that the judges need to dust that off and start hitting litigants and their attorneys hard when they bring cases that are baseless.